Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our June Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. We'll call our meeting to order, and we will begin with a land acknowledgement. Grimsby is situated on treaty land, and this land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and Grimsby stand with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Thank you. Moving forward, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? Getting shakes of head, so we will move on to the approval of the agenda. Everyone get a chance to look at the agenda. Looking for a mover. We have Councillor DeFlavio. And a seconder. We have Amy. All in favor? Great, okay. That's carried for the agenda. And now I would like to move on to our delegate this evening. We have Ron Van Peltz. You're welcome to come up to the stand and give your delegation. Just a reminder that you'll have 10 minutes to speak, and you'll just have to head on and touch the button on the bottom right in order to start. But welcome to come up and share. Thank you, Ron. So it should be the bottom left, or right, sorry, the bottom right.
There you go. I should know this, I've been here enough. Anyways, thanks for accepting my ability to speak tonight. It's been a while, but it's also been a long time coming on what you guys are going to discuss tonight. I'm hoping that more property owners, being heritage, will have some say in what you guys are proposing. I read the whole thing. I read the plan that you guys announced for annual report, but also how that encompasses into your heritage. And I think, personally, I think it's a step in the right direction. You're finally putting some skin in the game. It's long overdue. You're about 17 years behind a lot of jurisdictions, but at least you're going in the right direction. You know, I think with the tax grants and the tax incentive in terms of some relief, the combination is good. And I think when we look at it over the years, what we've been talking about, we all have agreement that heritage properties add character and vibrancy and sense of community to Grimsby. Well-kept, maintained heritage properties add property values to the town and, in essence, tax revenues. It also costs more to maintain. Once designated, it's almost impossible to get off the registry without a legal bill that most people don't want to incur, or there's no incentive to do so. Heritage designation needs to make sense, and that's why there's a committee. And I've always stated that because homes are pretty and properties are pretty doesn't mean that there's some historical designation. I'm a history buff. Historical to me means it's important. There's a history there, some person of importance. But because the house has been from 1890 or 1900, can you imagine what's going to be like in about 50 years? Every house in this town is going to be designated. Has to make sense. It also has to make sense that it's very unique in its architectural, but more importantly, architectural should be the smaller part. It's the importance who lived there and contributed to the community and to the history of Ontario, Grimsby, and Canada. So when we start looking at all these designations, it's a concern to me. More government overreach is not what most property owners want. They want to be heard. They want input from the community so you get consistency. But at the end of the day, the last thing you want is more government in your property. We all agree that heritage properties are more difficult to sell. There's a very small niche demographic that wants to buy them. Not everybody wants to buy them, but if you put overreach and easements and all that, it makes it even more difficult to sell them. Because when people hear that, what does the government really want? People don't want to buy them. And as a result, you discount them. Now, the positives. I think the eligibility with I guess it's part 4, individual properties are eligible. I think that's a good point. Because not all heritage properties are created equal or are equal. There are more that are important in this town than others. I happen to live in one. And a house that's just 1890s and looks nice is not the same as my house. I have a founding father, had importance there, part of the what I call the Grimsby Beach, the Grimsby, that was input, it's important. But there's a lot of historical properties here that are not important. They're just pretty houses that were in 1890. So there should be some consideration that those properties have maybe more support. I like the idea of separation between residential and commercial. As I said, with the tax grants to do renovations, there should be 2. One for residential, because we do not have access to other funds and charities that commercial properties or charitable events or enterprises have. So I like that. 82 potential properties are eligible, but again, some are more important than others. 40% for residential, 20% for commercial, makes sense to me. I think we have a workable model, but it needs some tweaks. Now, my expectation is that town council better pass it, because you stated it in your report. I'm going to hold you to that. If I don't hold you to this now, I will hold to you, council, at election time. And trust me, I'll be at every debate. Concerns. The impact cap is $750,000. Again, as I said earlier, all heritage properties are not created equal, and are not equal. Some properties are worth a lot more than $750 in the cap, so you shouldn't be limited. And those are probably the bigger properties, the bigger footprint, and more important historical designation in terms of importance in this community. My house happens to be one of them, so I'm speaking selfishly for me. But at the same time, if I'm taxed for more, I should get a bigger support. I would have liked the start date to be in 2025 of the rebate, not in 2026. We've been going down this whole road for 2 years. I know government moves slowly, but God, when you want to implement something, it moves fast. That's just my personal opinion. One concern I have is what successful applicants must enter into agreements with the town. What does that mean and what does it encompass? That should be clearly defined. Because if it's not, some people are going to say, I don't want you guys involved in my property, and your houses will deteriorate. So it's got to be fair and equitable. Because the last thing I want is the town on my deed or my title. Anybody around this room probably wouldn't want it either. Why can't, one of the things I look at is repair grants and tax incentives. If you're doing one, why can't you get both? Properties cost more, and to limit that is wrong. These costs don't go away. Material costs, and I'm in the building materials business, have gone up 30, 40, 50, 60% in the last 5 years, and they'll continue to go up. I don't have to tell you what labor is. So as a result, you just can't limit one to the other. That's just wrong. If the person is doing the work, you should get both. The onus is on us to prove it that we're doing the work. You've asked for that in one of the addendums, so I only think it's fair that if we provide it, we shouldn't be limited to just one or the other. 2, if we qualify. The idea of a 2-year tax, 2 consecutive years is wrong. Heritage properties are for eternity. It doesn't go away. They're ongoing. Unless you say that after 2 years I don't get it, then I can go and say I'm going to go off the registry. I'm good with that. But you can't limit it to just 2 consecutive years. Those things don't go away. My heritage house is a heritage house, is a heritage house. So you're either in or you're out. You know, as they say, you got to be committed to the program. You know, I'm going to say something that probably will get me in trouble with the region, but that doesn't matter. I have no idea why the region backs out. I have no idea why we have regional councilors. I have no idea what our regional representative does. Because one thing's for sure, they don't talk about heritage. The first thing I would have been doing is that when they bolted, someone should have stood up and said, just a second here. We're going to go through a major designation process and you're bailing? And this goes back to what I'm saying. It's always been one-sided. The Niagara region has probably more designated homes and more history, because this is where Ontario started, than any other region. Yet they bolt. But they get the tourist dollars, they get the property values, they get the taxation dollars. And what do the heritage owners get? Who make these communities vibrant? Nothing. We have to fight for every nickel. Like I said, just disband the region. Put the money back to the councils that use it. And that should be on pulpit, and that should be on the agenda when you guys go and fight in the next election. Get out of the region. Get them disbanded. Go to the Ontario government. They've done the other regions. It's a waste of money. It's just extra bureaucracy. And we don't need bureaucracy. We need results and execution. So I'm looking to say, what's the town's strategy to get this done? Whoever represents us, and I believe it's the mayor, needs to get that done. Come up with a strategy. I'm prepared to volunteer to go and make those presentations. Because at the end of the day, the region's not listening. We need relief from them. We need relief from Ontario, the Ontario provincial coffers. They benefit from heritage. Like I said, it's got to be equal from all fronts. I don't expect the town to come up with all of it, but I sure as hell expect them to fight for it. So as we look, we got one thing. As I say, we've got a first step. We're far from the gold standard that are in U.S. jurisdictions and other jurisdictions around the country. But it's a good first step, and I'm not going to complain about that. But like I said, I'll offer my services to go to the region and make delegations and make reasons and rationales for getting that done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ron. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. So, Ron, at this point, we're just going to go through a motion to receive your delegation, but we'll have to wait until we get to the tax incentive portion of the agenda to then engage in a conversation about it largely, but then maybe we can ask questions if we have them at that point. But thank you very much for coming up. Okay, so at this point, we have a resolution here that the delegation from Ron Van Pelt be received, and I'll just look for a mover. We have Brian and a seconder, Councillor Cristangi. All in favor? Okay, that's great. So that's carried. So again, thank you, Ron, for coming up and speaking. We'll move through the agenda, and then once we get to the item of the tax incentive, then we can continue that conversation. Councillor DeFlavio, you have a question.
Thank you, Chair. Do you think, it's up to the committee, of course, but do you think it's appropriate for us to move the tax incentive report up so we could talk about it first, since Ron just finished his presentation? Unless the order is important, or unless there's, a reason, other reason, we do it all the time, so.
Yeah. If that's something that we're wanting to do, then we just need to pass a motion, I think, to change up the order of the agenda, but I'm fine with that, rather than making Ron wait. So Bianca will just be writing up a resolution here. We can pass that to change the agenda, and then we can move forward.
Test.
Okay, so just having a little bit of technical difficulties. You know what, at this point,
Test.
we're gonna take a recess and figure out our technical issues, and we'll come back.
I'm sorry to cause that. This mic does not turn.
Every day. We just learned we can take a recess. No,
It doesn't shut off.
like something sticks.
It's probably all the dust that fell from the ceiling that's jammed in there.
Yeah, all over here.
But
IT's on their way.
now the mic is on.
Hopefully Brian's got the magic.
We're just
Let me get out of this
Yeah.
way. I can move down one, I just don't, I don't want to,
I don't think those ones.
I don't want to be the cause of it. To start, but look, the power doesn't go off. It's jammed in the on position.
Can you, Bianca, can you press the button with the 3 dots on your mic?
Because it's your first meeting.
Mine's working again.
It's all for Terry.
Okay? Yours is fixed too?
Okay, technical issue has been resolved. Sorry for that delay. We all have our mics, they're all in working order, everyone? Okay. All right, so how, do we just say we're back from recess? All right, everyone, back from recess. And we have a resolution. It has appeared magically in front of me, so that's fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so we have a resolution here to move item 9.4, that this be moved up to after the delegation. I'll need a mover for this. We have Councillor Kristanji and seconder. We have Amy. All in favor? Okay, so that's carried, that we can now move up item 9.4, which is to discuss the tax incentive report. Let me just organize my papers here. Okay, so now we'll move on to the report. Garrett will be presenting about the tax incentive report. After you present, then the committee can ask questions, and if we have any questions for you, Ron, then at that point we can answer or ask. But okay, go ahead.
Thank you through you, Chair. Staff's report outlines the requirements and considerations for a heritage tax relief program. By complementing the existing Heritage Property Grant Program with a tax relief program, the town's heritage assets can be further restored on an annual basis. This incentive also provides recognition for the additional costs associated with maintaining and restoring historic structures, while balancing the overall costs of the program with the affordability of the town. To create and implement a relief program, a bylaw must be passed. Feedback received from the committee and council will be incorporated into the final pilot program and bylaw, which will be brought back to council for their consideration if the recommended draft program is approved. The Municipal Act allows for flexibility of what can be included in the bylaw. The draft program proposed tonight has been formed using data collected from other municipalities, consultation with internal and external stakeholders, and lessons learned from other existing support programs. So I'll go into the program now. I've got quite a bit of text here, everyone. So staff recommend at this time that eligible properties include only those designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Staff recommend that easement properties are to not be included within the program to incentivize designation. Currently, there are 2 easement protected properties within the town that are being recommended for designation at a later date. Further, staff recommend that if a Heritage Conservation District plan is put in place within Grimsby, that this program would be reevaluated at that time to specify exactly which properties would be eligible to apply for funding. This would require amending the program bylaw if passed. Using the criteria of designated properties only, and estimated by the time the program would be implemented in the fall, it's estimated that there would be 66 residential properties and 16 commercial properties that would qualify for the funding, for a total of 82 properties. The Municipal Act allows municipalities to offer rebates in the 10 to 40% range. Staff recommend that the following rebates be offered: a 40% reduction in annual property taxes for residential properties and a 20% reduction in annual property taxes for commercial properties. The recommended rebate reductions are based on the review of 17 other municipalities, the financial implications to the municipality, and the most equitable use of council's allocated $50,000 budget for the program. And this is also in consideration that there are additional financial supports in place for designated property owners at this time. Staff are recommending that residential properties be given a higher rebate of 40%. The 40% rebate will further support residential properties, the costs associated with maintaining designated properties, and further, due to commercial properties having a higher tax rate than residential, offering a lower rebate amount to commercial properties would allow for a more equitable disbursement of funds throughout the community. In addition, there are more residential properties designated throughout the town than commercial properties. Staff are also recommending that a maximum rebate amount be implemented based on the impact value of the properties. Implementing a maximum rebate amount will enable funding to reach more property owners. The rebate will only be offered until the allocated funds have been utilized. The maximum impact assessment value cap for residential properties being recommended is $750,000, offering a maximum rebate of $1,641, approximately. Staff are reviewing the impact assessment cap for commercial properties at this time. The proposed $350,000 cap within the report is being reevaluated just to ensure that the funds will be used up that council has allocated. But staff continue to recommend that the 20% rebate be offered, and those numbers will be updated within the following report to this one. To offer a rebate to all residential properties at 40%, it would cost the town just under approximately $49,000. To offer the rebate to commercial properties at 20%, it would cost the town just under approximately $17,000. Planning and finance staff have also estimated the administrative costs to implement the rebate for each successful applicant. It's expected to cost approximately $206 per property. To ensure that rebate is worth issuing, it is recommended that it exceeds the administrative costs. Based on the review completed by staff against the impact data, staff were able to confirm that the cost to administer the rebate for the program would be less than the awarded rebates to successful applicants. Further, staff recommend that the relief be offered in the form of a reduction in taxes. So now I'll go into some of the program specifics that staff are recommending. The Municipal Act allows for the bylaw to stipulate program eligibility qualifiers. Based on the review of other programs and to ensure the program meets the intended goals and has a fair application process for property owners, staff recommend that the following qualifiers be included. Part 4 designated properties applying within the application intake window. Applicants must describe how the rebate will be invested into the property. Successful applicants must enter into agreements with the town. Each property will be limited to 2 consecutive years of funding. Applicants cannot be eligible if they have an active heritage property grant in progress for that year or are receiving any additional funding from the municipality. There must also be no outstanding contraventions of the Ontario Heritage Act, municipal fines, arrears of taxes, fees, or penalties assessed against the property. The property must not be the subject of any town bylaw contraventions, work orders, or other outstanding municipal requirements as of the date the application is received by the town. Properties that have mixed assessments of commercial and residential can apply for only one rebate, whichever is greater. The property must be in good repair, and the application must include current photos of the property. An additional qualifier staff recommend including that is not within this report is that no more than 50% of the funding can be allocated to commercial properties, and that residential properties be prioritized once the 50% percentage is reached. If there is surplus funds, then they can be offered to the next commercial properties in the application queue. For the application process, staff recommend that letters with an application form and program guide are sent to all eligible properties. Those interested must submit a completed application form to the town during the application intake window, which is expected to open in November 2025. Applications can be submitted electronically or in person at Town Hall. Both of these options will allow for timed submissions, which will be used to queue the processing of applications. All submissions will be reviewed against the program qualifiers and awarded until the allocated funding has been used. If an application does not meet the program qualifiers, they will be disqualified. Staff recommend that once applicants have submitted their time-stamped applications, their applications will be evaluated against the eligibility qualifiers included within the recommended program. Successful applicants must permit staff to conduct a site visit of the property to ensure that the protected attributes are being maintained. If the property is being maintained and the qualifiers are met, the successful applicants can enter into agreements and they will receive the rebate. Staff recommend that if a tax relief recipient demolishes the property or breaches the terms of the Heritage Conservation Agreement, the town will require the owner to repay all of the tax relief that has been provided to the property owner under the program. And further, the municipality can also require the property owner to pay interest on the amounts being repaid. The town also retains the right to take appropriate legal action against the property owner to enforce the terms of the agreement. Should the committee and council approve the recommended program, any feedback provided will be incorporated into the draft program bylaw. Staff will prepare the associated materials to support the program. This will include the program draft bylaw, the specific intake period timeline, the associated forms for the program, including application forms, agreements, program guide, and any promotional materials. If approved, staff will bring a draft bylaw and supporting materials back to council for their consideration. If the bylaw is passed, staff can begin implementing the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Garrett. It's really exciting to see this program have, be kind of more robust and to see the intricacies. So this is really exciting, and I'm excited to hear about what we all have to share and ask. But first, I thought I would maybe pass it to Bianca if you wanted to clarify some of the questions that Ron had, our delegate, before we moved on to a full discussion.
Thank you, through the chair. So I just wanted to note the program came in draft tonight. The idea is we want consultation. This is just, what we've come up with, but we want to hear from the property owners. We want to hear from the committee and of course council. So we're really happy that Ron was here tonight to share his feedback. So I'll just touch on some of these pieces. Some of them are options. So I'll start with the agreement. So the ministry requires us to have something, so you can either do an agreement or you can do a easement. We're recommending we go the agreement route. That isn't going to be registered on title, and this would allow for us to kind of have an intake period every year with new agreements. It's just easier for the municipality to implement as well. We don't have to go chasing anybody. You just submit at that time and then we deal with it as a new application. So we have to do something, and that's the route we're recommending. But again, the committee can discuss that as an option. And then the other pieces are about the use of funds. So we want to be able to have these funds go to as many people as possible. So that's where that impact data limit of 750,000. That's just so that we can reach more people. We have a median for the designated sites. This is above that. So we did increase it rather than going with the median. And then, again, we can talk about that. That's just what we're recommending. Then we also recommended that if you're getting a grant that year, then the funding's coming from there. And then if you're getting the tax rebate, your funding's coming from that area. So if like an applicant can't decide, we could always help them calculate what the amount would be either way, and they can decide what they want to get that year. But the idea is that like council gave us these incentives, we wanted to reach as many people as possible. So that's where that comes from. And that was also something that we saw in the 17 other municipalities we looked at. And same with the impact data, like having a cap, that was also something that other municipalities do. Same idea, to get it stretched to as many people as possible. The 2-year cap, we thought 2 years would work because you can do 2 consecutive years and then maybe consider the grant the next year, then 1 year off, and then you can apply again. Again, the idea is more property owners get a chance at the funding. Other municipalities do 5 years of funding, 5 years off. So we thought 2 was a little bit more, not, I guess, as intimidating as 5 years off. So that's where that comes from, but that's something that other people implemented as well. Again, up for consideration. And then just touching on the region piece, we did confirm that the region doesn't support a type of program like this right now. But I know Fort Erie has implemented the program, and in talking with our colleagues, Niagara-on-the-Lake is looking at it, St. Catharines and us. And so that's something maybe we can reach out to them about together, but we've reached out, and as of right now, it's not something that, there's no programs to support that. So those are just, I think I touched on most of the themes, but yeah, happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Bianca. And again, thank you, Garrett. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just wanted to speak to the agreements a little bit more as well. So the agreements will be drafted and brought to be brought to council with the following report, but or the report that will follow this one. But to summarize what will be included in the agreements, it'll basically be ensuring that the funds being rebated to the property owner will be reinvested back into the building, just so we know that the funds are being used as intended and kind of following the program parameters. And then the amounts being proposed as well, we wanted to ensure that the rebate amount was worthwhile for property owners to apply. So that was also why these amounts were chosen. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you for providing that context. And again, Garrett, for your presentation. I just wanted us to kind of have all of the context before we then open it up for discussion. So at this point, if there's any committee members that might have questions or comments, I'd love to hear. Yes, Councillor DeFlavio, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, thank you. This is exactly the start that we wanted. I have to agree with Mr. Van Pelt about the 2 years. I'd like to see a rolling eligibility where, you know, maybe after 2 years, you go down on the priority list, so people who haven't applied before or haven't received it in the last 2 years get priority first. But I don't think that there's any reason why we can't, if we set a budget for it, why we can't continue to provide the grant like in perpetuity for heritage homeowners, as long as we are prioritizing new applications every year. So I don't know how we would do that. You know, maybe a checkbox that says, have you received the grant in the last 2 years? We're going to keep track of it. Obviously, we'll have a registration of all the grant applications and who's received it. But I think carrying it over from year to year is a way to, I think it'd be an incentive for people to talk to one another and say, you know, and I originally thought it would be a good idea to get documentation about how the money was being spent. But at the same time, we have to trust that people who are, and you've got all the parameters within your report as well about, you know, nothing that has broken the rules or, you know, any kind of bylaw problems. So I don't think it's necessary to say, show us the receipts the way that we have for grants in the past, because we have to, you know, we've talked about the cost of insurance. We've talked about, we want people to use this money we know that heritage homeowners have additional costs. There are costs associated with taking care of these old homes. So at some point, we have to trust the people who are taking care of these homes, that they're going to use the money that they're saving, however that is. It's basically a thank you for taking care of a home that we want preserved within the town of Grimsby. And how people use that money, as long as it's not being misused, is, I think, their business. The incentive should be for having a heritage home. That being said, the lack of regional participation really bothers me. And I get that there's no program in place, but I think it needs to start somewhere. And I think if nobody ever asks, it's never going to happen. So I don't know if it's appropriate for it to come from the Heritage Committee to go to council and then from council to the region, or whether I should bring it forward at council. I'll trust you or maybe Terry or whoever wants to speak to that. But I think a motion that asks our regional councilor and the mayor to work with regional staff, and there might be a committee at the region that's the appropriate place for this to go. But to work together with them to look at, especially since you've mentioned there's 4 municipalities now, and I'm sure that others will come on board too if the programs are put in place. You said Fort Erie, Niagara-on-the-Lake, St. Catharines. Those are 4 of the many municipalities in the Niagara region. So if we can get people on board, I'm sure that our regional councilor and our mayor can work with those other municipalities and the councilors from those other municipalities to get everybody together to rally a vote at the region to support this kind of funding. Again, at the regional level, we're talking about a very insignificant amount of money at the regional level to show that they support heritage throughout the region. They've done it in the past. It's not like we're asking them to do something new. We're just asking them to change the way that they do it, because we know that with our heritage, with our facade improvement program, with all the other programs we've had in the past, they've matched. So it's not like they've never done it before. They don't know how to do it. They basically have to reinstate something similar to what they've already had in place. So, I mean, I've got a little thing drafted, but if this is not the appropriate place for it, I don't want to, get out of line. But I think that we do need to start that process somewhere. And if nobody asks the region to do it, if none of the municipalities ask the region to do it, and if it's already been asked at other municipalities and answered, then that's fine. But I think we need to continue to ask and ask our representatives of the region to step up for the town of Grimsby in order for, I tell my students, I tell my kids, if you never ask, nobody's ever going to say yes, right? So I think we got to ask the question, and if they say no, they say no, and we'll have to ask why, right? But anyway, those are the things that I like your commercial balance. I really like the justification for all of the report. I'd like to see those couple of things. I'd like to see the rolling eligibility, and I'd like to see us approach the region for them to pitch into. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback, Councillor DeFlavio. I think Terry would like to speak to the region question that you have. So go ahead, Terry.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you, through you, the chair. We can always, once we have actually adopted the program, we can always send a letter and send it to all the other municipalities as well, because if they're at varying interests and varying timelines as well, we want to make sure we're doing a combined approach. So we can do a variety of different mechanisms, whether sending the initial letter for correspondence, sending it to asking that also be sent to the other municipalities to work with us and support that. I know the region has been developing some housing incentives right now, but they have very scoped buckets that they're working with. But it doesn't mean we can't ask and keep on asking for further contributions and further consideration.
Thank you for that, Terry. Yes, Councillor DeFlavio?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thanks, Terry. As everybody at the table knows, the regional portion of our tax bill is significantly higher than the municipal. It's like 2 to 1 or more. So we can really make this something if we get the region on board. There's only so much we could do as a town, because our portion of the bill is about less than a third of the entire tax bill. So I'd really like to see that happen. I appreciate your answer. And if there's anything you need from us from a motion perspective, I'm happy to move that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor DeFlavio. I think Bianca would also like to speak to what you've brought up.
Thank you, through the chair. I just wanted to confirm, because we're going to come back with some options, I think. So I just wanted to confirm for the 2 years, prioritize people who haven't applied in the 2 years, but then after the 2 years, that person's back to being priority. Well, I'm just thinking about it because we're trying to keep the cost as low as possible for the staff operation so that it makes the most sense for the rebates to be higher rather than it going to staff time. So there would just be a little bit more sorting out to see like who applied and then keeping track of who applied in the 2 years. And then like when they're back to like, okay, now you're priority again, if that makes sense. So I just kind of balancing that part.
Through you, Chair, thank you. Yeah, I actually thought that just maintaining the eligibility would reduce the amount of staff time, because if you know a homeowner has been on for the last 2 years, they provided documentation, it's just a matter of updating. It seems to me that it would be easier to have a reapplication than a new application, so it would reduce the amount of staff time. Again, I could be completely wrong, but what I thought was, if you said something like applicants can reapply in subsequent years, however, in the event that total requests exceed program's annual funding allocation, priority will be given to applicants who have not received a rebate in the preceding 2 years, 2 program years. So if we don't have enough applicants, I don't want to say no to somebody if there's still money available. And it's kind of the same thing we did with the Heritage Grant programs in the past where, we don't want to say no and leave money on the table so I don't know how we would do that, but the only way that I can think of it is if you didn't get it in the past, you can reapply. If we don't have enough applicants, you can reapply.
Through the chair, definitely, we'll take that back and see like how we'll calculate what that would look like. I was just gonna say, we're recommending they apply every year because we want to do it like a queue, so that we're not having to like have a whole committee to select. It just makes it more complicated. If you meet the qualifiers and you're first, you get it, is kind of the idea. So I think we would just add potentially a box that says, have you had funding in the last 2 years? If it's no, we'll verify it. But basically then the other people will put at the end or whatever. We'll take it back, but yeah, just want to touch on that. And then the only other thing I want to touch on, just to make sure we're on the same page, for the proof of repair, the idea is like we'll do inspections as a part of the qualifying to make sure the attributes are in good condition. So as long as the attributes that are protected are in good shape, then they're good to go. We don't need any receipts or anything like that. So is that aligned with what you had said there?
Yes. Again, that seems like an additional staff time. So if you think that's necessary, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think that, we don't do, again, do we normally check the attributes to make sure that they're in good repair? And is this just another way? Is it meant for us to make sure that the heritage properties that are on the register, that are Section 4 are being maintained? Is that the idea? So that, we not just we're giving money, but we're also ensuring that our heritage properties are being well maintained and protected as a result of that money. So we can see that money is going right back into the program, into the buildings.
Through the chair, kind of had 2 thoughts on this. One, if we were meeting with them regularly and seeing them, we can also give them like proactive things to say, oh, if you do this, this won't happen down the road, was one way we're looking at it. And then the other idea was that we have property standards for these buildings anyways. We're checking them anyways. And we're supposed to be making sure that they're in good condition. So it's like, basically like everything looks great. Keep going as you're going. And then maybe if one isn't in as good of a shape and they won't make the qualifier, then we can be like, you should apply for the grant funding. So that was kind of the idea, just like, again, networking with the homeowners. So that's kind of what we're thinking. And then the guide from the ministry recommends that there's some kind of check. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying and for that. So I just wanted to mention, so going back to the region, the thing that you brought up, I would also love to support that motion too. So I'm not sure if this is the meeting, but if it does come up after the program is passed, that kind of makes sense if we have like a robust program that's like in the works and then we bring it to the region and say, look what we've done. But I do think I would love to support that from the committees, to bring it forward from the committee, just to be a part of that. So I just wanted to mention that. And then to speak to the agreement, so going into agreement, what I liked about how that was kind of framed in the report was kind of making it like an active dialogue with the heritage homeowners rather than like a passive, here's some money, you know, we'll look the other way. So I saw it as kind of like a dialogue where, again, the heritage homeowners know that there's heritage staff here for support that they might not have had access and they might not have known they had access to before. So to kind of create a dialogue and making sure that the homeowners know that they have the support that they need. I hope it wouldn't be something where, you know, we're really forcing how they use their money, but more of opening up a dialogue, having those conversations and making sure that the heritage is being maintained going forward. And that to me is worth having that incentive, right? Because it is an incentive in the end. So I just wanted to say that to me, when I read the report, it seemed more of being like an active participation, more of a dialogue rather than being like a passive, here's some money. So I just wanted to mention that. We can move on. Yes, Councillor Cristangi, you have your hand up.
Thank you, through Chair. I'll support our second motion if needed for the region as well too. I think that's super important. I think it'd be great to get this all together and then sort of highlight our heritage and why it's important in this part of the region, and then go forward from there, show the value of it first, and then again, get all the other municipalities on board. Thank you for the explanation of the 2 years, and I wouldn't want to see the 5 years on, 5 years off, so I do like the 2 years better. And I understand. I actually think I'd like to see you be able to have the tax incentive plus the grant. Only because as long as the grant's not given to the same homes every time, but I feel like the grant is like a big project, you know, where the tax incentive might not cover something that's large that needs to be done. And my concern would be something large would be put off if you're just getting small increments, right? So I think the two could actually complement each other as long as the grant wasn't going to the same home consecutively or wherever. The other thing is the timing of applying, because if you apply for the grant and don't get it, but then you can't apply for the tax incentive, you sort of lose. So if the timing doesn't coincide, so that would be something to consider as well. But I love that we're getting this on the ground, that this is moving. I love, Ron, that you delegated as a homeowner. Thank you, because your input is very valuable. And I hope more heritage homeowners do give that feedback for us so we can ask the right questions. I would say in your report, when it comes to council, maybe a little more explanation so that there is less questions for the councillors that aren't on the Heritage Committee. So it just explains a little bit more. But I think we're definitely a step in the right direction, and I'm happy to see this finally coming through.
Thank you for your feedback, Councillor Cristangi. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Through you, Chair. So a couple of comments and then a couple of questions. So I'll agree with some of the comments that were made around the having to explain how it will be used. I don't think that's necessary with this. I think it's a rebate, and we talked about how much the property owners have a more expense than non-heritage properties, and I think it's just like, here you go, no strings attached. Thanks for being one of the property owners. So I think that's other comments made. I echo there. Let's see, what else did I have here? The agreement, so I had a question about the agreement as well earlier, but I think you explained it better, just like that it's more of a stipulation for the money to transfer. I think probably clarity around with that might be a bit of a turnoff if people are thinking like, oh, what am I going to have to do now to get this money? Whereas what I understood your explanation to be was it's just like for that to transfer, it has to be an agreement. It's not something like the owners are going to have to do something else. Again, kind of going back to the point of if we just want to give them the rebate, they're eligible for it. So I think just maybe clarity for that. So it seems a bit more approachable as I kind of read into it a bit more, which maybe others would read into it the same way and be turned off by that. So 2 questions, I think only 2. I'll try these ones here. The application process, is it town staff that will review and determine? Is there going to be a committee to it, or is it just strictly town staff?
Through the chair. So the no need to explain that. So when they submit their, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So checking to make sure the attributes are in good condition, that's part of the program guide that comes from the ministry. So we will do that part. Plus we have property standards, so we do that anyways. But the way I'm taking it is when they submit like the qualifiers, one of them was like explain where the funding, we're saying we don't want to put that in, right? Okay, so I put that in. And then the other part about the agreement, yeah, it's just like some of those pieces like agreeing to like not like there will be things in there likely for the other parts, like we don't want you to contravene the Heritage Act and stuff like that. Like that's like the legal document that basically facilitates the program. But Garrett mentioned when we come back with the next report, that's probably something we can expand a bit more. And so that was that piece. And then what was the other? Sorry, lost my train of thought. What was the other one you had? Oh, right, the selection, or, yeah, so with the grant, we did have a selection committee. The way we see this one is as long as you meet the qualifiers, and then it'll be queued. So we have like a timestamp at the town. So you can either submit in person, and we can actually stamp it, say what time you came at, down to the second, and then online you could submit. We also have a time submission, and the idea is like it would be queued based on when you submit, and as long as you meet the qualifiers. Just we thought that was the most simple process forward, and then I think as the program continues on, people will know, got to get that in right away. I think that covers your comments. I did want to touch on a couple of things Councillor Korsianji had. I agree with the council, more context, that's helpful. Just for timing for the grant versus the incentive. So the way we've been doing it is kind of, I believe we launched it like summerish last year, the grant. And then for the incentive, because it's the ministry, it needs to be, they recommend it comes in November because we have to send everything to the ministry by February. So that gives us time to do everything we need to do. So the idea would be grant first, then the incentive. But if we did both, then it wouldn't really matter. I think the both is just spreading the funds across the board, but if everyone likes the idea of both, that's fine. So I just wanted to touch on that, but I don't know if you added something else, Brian.
Through you, Chair. The only other one I wanted to ask about was one of the, I guess it's qualifiers in that table there. There must be no outstanding contraventions of the Ontario Heritage Act, municipal fines, arrears, or taxes, fees, penalties, et cetera. So I'm thinking about those properties that we've had on here with the old retro. We demolished something, didn't know, and I think we've had 3 or 4 of those on there. I don't think, if memory serves me correctly, like what I'd interpreted was we don't want those properties to be accessed because they're not following what they should be doing with this. There's the property owners that they follow the process in that, which I think is a good thing. I think it has to be a qualifier in there if you following what you're supposed to be doing with the bylaw. When I read this though, like I think some of those properties, I don't think any of them actually progress to a contravention of it. So they actually wouldn't be caught in that piece. We approved a retroactive permit, and they went along and we kind of counseled them on this is what you should have done, and then we moved on. But I think based on those scenarios we've had and looking at the wording of this, I don't think this would actually disqualify them from that because I don't think any of those would actually progress to a true contravention where they had to actually face the legal ramifications of it. We just kind of said, hey, don't do that again and we'll approve the retro. So I think we maybe want to make that wording a little bit stronger to capture those properties where they made a decision to do something without consulting when they should have consulted. And I think, with how much limited funds there are and how many property owners that are following the process, I think we definitely want to prioritize them and maybe put that as a qualifier, just changing that wording a bit so it captures those ones that didn't actually fully lead to a fine or a contravention.
Thank you for that feedback, Brian. And I think that's a really good point about how we deal with properties that we have had to kind of retroactively have these permits now that we kind of have this program that is requiring a little bit more accountability. I think that is important to address in this. So yeah, that's a good thing to include. Yes, Bianca, go ahead.
Through the chair, just because we're here. So for the consequences, I agree. I want to check and see that threshold. I think we'll consult with legal to see like what that threshold looks like and work that in there. I like that. I was just going to ask, how does the committee feel like they've contributed within the year, within the last 2 years? Do we want to put a timeline on that? Because we don't want to say forever, but like also being like 2 years, that would hurt. I don't know.
That's a good question. I feel like a lot of this seems to be on like a 2-year basis already, so I'm not sure if that's something you want to continue, or if you want to extend it to 5 years. I'm not sure what other municipalities have done. I'm not sure if you would have to look into that. But I feel like this is on like kind of like a 2-year rotating basis anyway, so I would be okay with that, but I'm not sure if other committee members have a thought. That was a question that I was going to bring up was that exact question. You know, what counts as remedial action also. But anyway, and I just, before the thought leaves me again, Brian and Councillor Cristangi brought up the idea of the incentive and the grant program. And I was also going to suggest that maybe they could happen at the same time as well, because it does seem that the rebate is a thank you for preserving and maintaining these heritage homes and the character of the town. But the grant, I think, can supplement those larger projects. And the grant also has that selection committee criteria. It's a little bit more, robust. There's a little bit more criteria to it. Whereas if the tax incentive is just, you know, you're applying, you meet the qualifiers, you have a conversation and have dialogue with staff, and that's enough, then I think we can keep the tax incentive and the rebate to be as fair and equitable as possible, and we can, you know, spread it as widely as we can. And then the grant is for those larger projects that are working to enhance the heritage attributes rather than just maintain them. So that's kind of how I saw it. So I just wanted to chime in there before it left me again. Yes, Councillor Cristangi.
Thank you, through Chair. Yeah, I'm just curious on that. How would it leave houses off of getting anything though? Because like you said, you want to spread it as far as, so my only concern is, like, I would like to see you be able to get both, but if it's going to disadvantage more homeowners from receiving anything, then it's sort of, because I was just afraid, I was afraid of the timeline as well. So, but the timeline sees, okay, if you can apply for the grant, if you don't get it, you still then can apply for the incentive, which I think is good. You'll know in time. Just depending if there is the potential that a lot of homes then would receive nothing, then that would be something to look at as well too. Yeah, it's a decision with a lot of different perspectives for sure.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, can I just clarify, are they two different pots of money, the grant and the tax incentive? They are two different?
Through the chair, yeah, they're two different pots. So 20,000 has been allocated to the grant, 50,000 for the tax rebates. Okay. Yeah, so we were thinking we have this money to spread across everybody. Mm-hmm. Maybe we don't make two people eligible for both pots is kind of the idea. But if the committee wants it to be both, like, we're open to whatever everyone wants, but we just felt like that was an easy way to get more homeowners an incentive that year. Mm-hmm. And then, like, if you don't do it one year, you can apply for the other one the next or whatever. Right. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just wondering if maybe it's somewhere in like the grant selection committee, there's like a criteria about how often they receive the grant or when or something like that. Yeah, there's little details to work out, but then I wonder if that becomes part of the selection criteria for the grant. I see a lot of hands. I know Amy, you've been raising yours too, but I don't know if Garrett, if you have something immediately to respond to.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just during our review with the finance team, we were talking about other funding programs that the town has in place. One of them is the community grant, and I believe in that agreement there is a stipulation that they aren't receiving any other funding from the municipality. So I just wanted to put that out there for the committee's consideration. Thank you.
That's good to know. Thank you, Garrett. Amy, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Actually, just more comments. A lot of it's already been said. I'm in favor definitely for the agreement versus the easement. I think, Sarah, you touched on it nicely, open dialogue, a little bit more inclusive than the other option. But I also wanted to talk about the application, because I actually feel slightly different. I mean, I'm not in favor of red tape by any means or holding them accountable to what the tax reduction in taxes should be applied for. But at the same time, it is a heritage. It's an incentive. You touched on it, no matter how you look at it, whatever word you put on it. And I do think it is important for that to be on the application. So we're not holding them to it by any means, but I don't think we're outside our, I just don't see there being any issue with having them have to put reasoning or suggestions for what the funds could be allocated for. The whole point of it is heritage preservation and buy-in, and I just think that's an important element. So again, I don't want to make it difficult or have them discouraged by that as a qualifier by any means, but I don't think there should be any limitation on why we can't capture that information. And furthermore, I think we can utilize it in the future. We talk about how we want more homeowners to be involved. Thank you for coming today. But I think it's good dialogue and good resource to look back and say, this is what homeowners have invested it for in the past. This is how this program has helped other homeowners. And I just think it's important for us to capture that. So that's kind of my stance on that. And then the last comment, I am in agreement. I think there's a lot of questions that we still need to answer and some details to map out. But I am in favor with fellow committee members here that I would like to see both the grant and the tax coincide a long time. And again, it's first come, first serve. And the hope is that we go through all the funds. That's the goal, right? So, yeah.
Thank you, Amy. And yes, Bianca, go ahead.
I just had a thought, because at the next meeting, we're hoping to bring back kind of a summary of how the pilot went for the grant. So our hope is to bring it to next meeting. So I just had a thought, when we look again at the selection committee criteria, maybe we say you lose a point or something if you have received funding or whatever in the last year or something like that, where it's they still can have both, but it's people who haven't got funding are still being prioritized. Mm-hmm. Or I don't know, we could look at that and see maybe there's a way we just factor it into what we're making the decision on, but we're still allowing both. I don't know, we can look at that, because that's going to come at the same time, so we'll kind of have both reports in front of us. So I was just going to add that. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone's comments so far. And it's really cool to hear you say that, in our next meeting, we'll have a grant program after a full year of that, which is really exciting, and I'm excited to see what's come out of that. But then now we have this tax incentive as well. So I just think it's also just a good time to we've done a lot, and this is really exciting to see these programs moving forward. So I just wanted to give a moment for that, and again to thank our delegate for coming and sharing. And it's really important to get your feedback. I've seen your hand up a couple times. Is he able to come up and ask a question? Okay. Yeah. So you're welcome to ask a question.
Just comments from the dialogue that's been going on for a while. I think what comes out of the discussions is the fact that the importance of making sure funding is in place, but more importantly, the way to solve the funding issues is the fact that it becomes very important that the region gets involved. To Nick's point is the fact is the more funds that are available, they have skin in the game and they get benefits in the game. As a result, that helps mitigate the fact that it helps disperse the funds to more owners. I think the other thing is a personal commentary, and I can't speak for all heritage owners, but the ones I do know, we take pride in our properties. You can go down almost every heritage home in this town, and I've traveled for a living with my sales reps, and I see a lot of heritage properties in other towns that are not as well kept. And they had supports. So they didn't have the same passion, or they were too complicated, or whatever the reasons are. But in Grimsby, there's a pride of ownership. And every one of those homes we spend money on. And somewhere along the line, there's got to be a trust factor. The fact is that regardless, there are some intangible things that property owners that are heritage have. Forget about the fact that there's construction costs and other costs. Soft costs, or you can call them hard costs, like insurance. These things are all things that we don't have control on. Insurance companies you get one claim, forget it, you're going to have a tough time finding another. So as a result, when you ask where those funds are going, yeah, I agree. We want to get some data points, but somewhere along the line, you've got to have the fact that you're going to trust these people, they're going to have pride of ownership, because that's their asset. And they can deteriorate very quickly, and at the end of the day, when they're coming to sell, potential buyers are looking at that because they don't want to do the work. They'd rather have move-in ready. They're going to whitewash the walls inside, but the outside's got to look good. So as a result, it's everything from landscaping to the gardens that these guys have matured over years. Those are all soft costs that are ongoing every year. And the benefit is the streetscapes that the town has. And you can go down every one of the streets, there's a heritage property on them. And that's what I say. So trust has got to come into it. A burdensome agreement doesn't help. Either trust, and I think the line is thanking the people that have invested in those homes over the last 40, 30, 20 years. It's payback to say, you know what, we take pride in our ownership, we take pride in the community. And we've done it for a long time, but somewhere along the line, we appreciate the support we're getting back from the town. That's the way I look at it. But it comes back to the next point. One of the key strategies is get the region involved. And if they don't help, go to us, I know Sam very well. I'll go and rag the hell out of him in terms of saying, you got to come out and support it because you guys are all about heritage as well. So we've got to get that strategy in place and we've got to execute on it because that's going to help your funding issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much again, Ron. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking such good care of your home, and I hope we can celebrate it with this tax incentive. No, we're moving forward on this. We're moving forward. Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions from the committee? The only other thing that I noted was in part of the report, I'm just moving. You mentioned possibly like bringing in an application fee following the pilot. I just wasn't sure if that should be kind of made clear right from the beginning, even with the pilot, to say, okay, we're adding an application fee starting the following year, just so that everyone's on the same page and that we're being as sort of transparent as possible. I know you kind of mentioned there was applications fees that are like that range from $50 to like $450. So I just don't know if knowing that and if that is something that we wanted to do to maybe establish that at the beginning so that it's not a surprise to homeowners going forward. That's something that I think we should do at the beginning. I don't know if anyone has any comments or questions on that.
Maybe I can give some perspective on the fees.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So during our benchmarking review, we found that fees kind of ranged between $30 to $450, depending on the property class. I'd say about half of the municipalities that we reviewed did have a fee in place. Through our review, we found that it cost about $206 to put the rebate in place. We were kind of discussing like the possibility of a fee and what it would look like. We don't want it to discourage people from applying, but they are getting money back. Some ways it could look is that, you apply, and if you're successful, the application fee would be like deducted from your rebated amount. So that's a possibility. Or you would only pay the fee if you're a successful applicant. That's something that could be done as well. But we can leave it up to the committee if they want to discuss putting that in place. Finance did say we could see how much, because the staff implementation time of the program will speed up as the program progresses. So we kind of base that $206 figure on what it would cost to put it in now, but we are expecting that it will become streamlined and become cheaper to implement. So we did put that in, as a consideration, maybe have the program in place for a year, see how it goes. We could implement a fee, but that's just some background info for the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on that. I just thought that if there was going to be a fee to be added, that it should be transparent from the beginning so it doesn't come as a surprise to someone who applies a second year. I don't know if, Brian, I saw your hand.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, I like the idea of not for the first year. I mean, we're not talking a big sum of money to say they're going to get $1,600, but then we're going to claw back $200 for the application. I don't know. That's a big percentage of the actual rebate. So I'd love it if we could even just get away with the first year and hopefully not have to have an application fee period, or maybe more funding comes and the next round of funding from the council is to actually cover that and not. I just don't like the idea with the amount of money that we're talking about to have put that extra burden on the homeowners there.
Thank you, through Chair. I agree with Brian. I just think that you have to be all or nothing. Like if you park it for a year and introduce it the second year, then what if you have new homeowners that are applying? Like, it just becomes a lot of regulation. So, I mean, there's different ways of going about it. Brian's suggesting, next round of funding, then if you have additional funds, then you can reintroduce the concept of an admin fee, because you want to be as transparent as possible. Otherwise, it's just you're just shifting around, and then you could say, well, we'll give you $1,400, but really you're just taking the $200 out of the 16 to cover it, and you're not being transparent with the homeowner. But I think it's going to get a little bit messy if you don't introduce it this year and then try and introduce it at any other point thereafter.
Thank you for your comments. Were there any others regarding that? Okay, just something that I wanted to put on the table. If it's not something we have to decide now, I just wanted to consider. I agree. If there isn't a fee, I think that would be the best way forward, but I also understand that these things cost the town or administrative time as well. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, that was a really fruitful discussion, so thank you. We have our resolution here, so I can read it out. And I really look forward to seeing next month what comes out of this. But okay, resolution. That report, HR 2512, dated June 10th, 2025, Heritage Property Tax Relief Pilot Program report be received, and that the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee recommends that council considers approving the recommended Heritage Property Tax Rebate Pilot Program, and that the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee recommends that council direct staff to create the final pilot program, draft the bylaw and supporting materials, which will be brought back to council for their consideration to pass the bylaw and implement the program. A mover. Councillor Cristangi. And a seconder, Councillor DeFlavio. All in favor? That's great. That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the receipt of previous minutes. All right. So the minutes from our May meeting. A resolution that the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee minutes of May 13th, 2025 be received. A mover. We have Amy. And a seconder, Councillor Cristangi. I have horrible writing today. I'm so sorry, Bianca. And all in favor? Okay, that's perfect. That is carried. We'll figure that out later. All right, moving on then to our memorandum. We have a request for comments. Oh, this is me. A request for comments for the Mapping Grimsby's Heritage Sites project. Let me just pull up my notes for this. Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, so we have been working with our working group partners and the people that we've, Shelley, who we've hired on to develop our print map. And now we're at the time when we're ready for comment about the map. So just, I have it printed out here, but just, it's going to be like an 18 by 12, it's going to fold open, but it's kind of the size of a little bit bigger than a postcard to begin with. And then you fold it up and it's going to open up to this big, beautiful map with lots of good information, historic information. And again, the map is kind of being formed as a kind of a tourism tool resource where we have our heritage attributes, all these historic our houses that have been designated in the downtown core, but then also opening opportunity for people to explore the downtown. So this is the target audience is locals, but also visitors who might pick this up at the Peach King Center or a Gateway or something. So we've tried to make it in a way where it will be familiar to locals, but also accessible for visitors who are coming to Grimsby for the first time. This looks like the not up to date one, but what we have is, so what we've added is parking, like where people can park. We've noted where parks are. So like Coronation Park, we've noted that's a park. And we've also identified and labeled where the different museums are. So Nell's Manor, Grimsby Museum, the Art Gallery, the library, and also downtown. So again, this is serving primarily to highlight the heritage attributes of our town, but also kind of creating an experience where someone can go downtown and explore all the different great things that we have to offer downtown, not just the history. So I asked for feedback regarding the design. I have some comments on the design. I was also looking for feedback on the text as well. We did ask for the Grimsby Historical Society for feedback, and Wayne Mullins, the president, who has so much expertise, was able to offer new updates to some of the outdated text that we have as new history and sources have been uncovered. So he's been able to give new updates about Canterbury Cottage, for example. I have a couple lists, the Town Bell, so I'll be updating that with the more up-to-date historic sources we have to share that history. But I also just wanted to put it to the committee and see if you had any feedback on the map itself and the stories that we're sharing. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, we did receive an email from Pamela Evans. You weren't CC'd on it, but she did make a couple of recommendations. One was that private residences should be marked as private, which is legitimate, to avoid people wandering into their yards, or just remind people that private residences are private residences, if we're giving that out, and that the Nellis Manor be marked as a museum so that people know that they can visit it and pay for a tour or make a donation or anything like that. Those are the two. Those aren't mine. I just wanted to bring those forward on behalf of Pamela, who sent us an email today.
Thank you. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. We really tried with how they're illustrated, so that they're not, what you would see on Google Maps, for example, so to make them illustrated, but yes, to make it more clearly that they're private makes a lot of sense to me. And that was a comment that I had as well, was making it really clear that Nell's Manor, Grimsby Museum, the Art Gallery are all places that are cultural spaces that you can visit and, support, pay admission to, have a tour. So making it a little bit more clear that way as well. So I do agree. Yes, Amy, go ahead.
Through you, Chair. Just on that note, so first off, fantastic. It's great. It's eye-catching. I really don't have a lot of feedback in terms of the design. I think it looks great. Just following up, though, with, you talked about how you tried to highlight Nell's Manor, the museum, the library. Maybe for the subparagraphs, for those ones, you can have an overlay for the text, like a gradient overlay, so it's not too distracting. And maybe it can be of a different color to kind of highlight, so those ones stand out. And then you wouldn't have to worry about reorganizing the order or anything. Just some thought on that.
Thank you. Yes, that's something that I'm finding with the map is there's so much information that we want to add to it. How do we stylistically do it in a way that is appealing to the eye, that's clear, that's not confusing? So yeah, maybe something where we highlight in the text itself would be helpful rather than just the map. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Cristangi?
Thank you, through chair. I'm not sure if this is possible or if we want to add it, but it might be nice to recognize that Main Street West was the old Indigenous trail. It is a part of our history. I see we have the Bruce Trail, and maybe that's just adding like a color along where that was, and then on the legend saying, just to recognize our Indigenous history. And I'm not sure if we have that element also in the Centennial Park with the burial ground, if we want to recognize that as well, just to something to think about.
I love that idea of adding that layer to the map. I think that's really important. The map itself doesn't go as far as Centennial Park, but if they're, given that, we are clearly showing in the Main Street West, then we should definitely be highlighting that if we can. So thank you for that. Yes, Amy, go ahead.
I forgot, through you, Chair, I forgot one other thing, QR code. Is there a QR code that they can scan to a digital copy?
Yes, so that was another comment that I had for Shelley, was to add a QR code to our digital map that we have and the Google map. But yes, thank you. And Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of them don't have dates. I don't know if it's because we don't have an accurate date, like the Gibson Cottage and John Henry Grout. Neither one of those has a date on it. So all of our plaques usually have a circa on them, so that might be something that we can, as long as it corresponds with what's on the house itself, I think, so some of them have them in the descriptions, but the easiest way to do it would just be in the address line to put circa, 1863 or whatever, and that way it would be consistent throughout, so.
That's a great idea. Yes, thank you. And I like that idea, maybe adding it right beside the property name, so that it's all consistent for all of the points of interest on the map. Thank you for that. I'm just writing that down. Oh, thank you very much for your feedback. Is there anything else? I guess, Brian, go ahead.
Through you, Chair. Looks really good. I have just 3 quick comments. One, on the main map one, can we put like a directional, which was north, south, west? And then the more of a question, just like for consideration, if we want to make it available in French as well. I always feel like with like heritage stuff like this, it's just kind of screams of an opportunity to say like we're 2 official languages in Canada. I don't know how many maybe we don't print it if there's not much appetite for that, but at least online, if there's like a French version there, just open it up to our other official language in Canada. And then last one is on the part where it's like the 4 quadrants, this one here. The picture is a beautiful picture of Grimsby. The town overhang, it seems really out of place there. I'd almost say like it's not necessary in that picture. And the text is kind of very blocky. I don't know if we can, there's like the text on the map, I think here would probably be better text if we want to do the step back in time. But I just don't think that downtown overhang looks right there. It just seems kind of awkward. If anything, I would say maybe pull the town logo and put it on the map, like this, like the one that's on the town's website. I feel like would look a little bit like sharper like that. I didn't think that. I feel like it took it away from the picture. It kind of looked awkward and out of place. Just more my personal opinion. But otherwise, yeah, it looks fabulous. I think it's really exciting to see this come to life.
Thank you. That's really great feedback. Thank you for the whole committee. All your feedback's been really, really helpful. So this is great. I will take this and then send it over to Janet at the Grimsby Museum. Has been very helpful in helping me kind of get this working. So I'll send this to Janet and Shelley. And then we will have a map that will come to our next committee meeting that we can then approve and then print and get it out into the world. So that's very, very exciting. Brian, you bring up a really good point about making a French option. We do have, we were able to do this because of a grant that we were awarded. So I can certainly see if we have funds to maybe hire a translator. I know usually the issue when it comes to French translations is we might not have someone on staff that's able to do that for us. But if we are able to kind of hire a translator to do that, then I definitely agree that would be something worth pursuing for sure, especially if this is not just for locals, but visitors as well. We want this to be as inclusive as possible. There we go. I love that idea. Voluntel is much better, much cheaper too. Okay, any other, oh yes, Amy, go ahead.
Through you, Chair, just on that note too, there's also resources online. You can use like the AI and stuff for translation as well, which you can back check, so that might be.
Oh, thank you. This is exciting. So thank you for your feedback. Again, I'll take this to Shelley and to Janet at the museum, and we'll have a final version for us to hopefully approve for our next meeting. So thank you. All right, let me go through my papers and find the resolution for this. All right, we have resolved that request for comments mapping Grimsby's heritage sites memorandum be received. A mover. We have Brian. And a seconder. And we have Amy. All right, all in favor? That's great and carried. Thank you. All right, moving on with our agenda. Okay, reports. First up is our heritage permit report for 92 Main Street West, and Bianca will be delivering this, so go ahead.
Thank you, through you, the chair. This is a fairly straightforward heritage permit. So 92 Main Street West was one of our successful grant applicants. So they are starting to do some of their work. And so as a part of their application, they have an original slate roof. So they wanted to have it inspected and then have kind of some restoration work done on the roof. So staff was able to meet with the property owner and a heritage roof specialist to assess the roof. And he gave a pretty interesting recommendation, which we thought was a great idea. So the main roof is having some areas of failure, but so is the kind of veranda porch at the entrance. So he recommended that the slate from the porch veranda area be salvaged and used to repair the larger roof. And then the property owner is going to look at asphalt shingle that's in the same color as the original slate. And the profile of the veranda, you don't see a ton of the slate. And so the idea was that they would use a compatible shingle that would kind of not detract in any way, and it would look fairly similar, while still having the main roof be restored with the slate that was installed at the same time. And then just based on the condition of the roof, they think that this repair will give it another 10 years, and then we're gonna have to look at it again. And so the idea is keep the slate with the property as long as possible, with the understanding like sometimes these roofs have a lifespan. So we want to kind of try this method, see how much longer we can get out of the main roof. And then, look at composite materials or whatever it is for the larger roof later. So that's essentially what this is, the permit's for, and it will support the grant work. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Oh, there's one more thing.
Thank you. Garrett just reminded me. I forgot about the stairs. Yeah, so do you want to take on the stairs? Okay.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So as a part of the approved grant works, the property owner is also having the woodwork on the front porch repaired. So this was brought to the committee last this April. So that includes like repairing the rotten column bases, porch railings. So the property owner, while all that work is happening, wants to put a more authentic staircase in on the front porch as well, just kind of matching the existing trim profiles. So the staircase that's there is like a prefabbed, pressure-treated one. So this will just improve the look of the porch, and the property owner wants to go about it themselves. But because it's a change of the way the existing stairs look, a heritage permit's required. Thank you.
Thank you for adding that extra context regarding the staircase. All right, any questions, comments from the committee? My question, I'm a bit surprised that the consultant suggested asphalt to replace, to kind of like the composite material to replace the slate. I definitely think it's a great example of salvaging, to take the porch slate shingles and use them on the main roof. But I am a little bit surprised. I don't know. I wasn't expecting a heritage consultant to suggest using a modern material like that. Is there did he create a report or anything? I'd just be curious to know a little bit more about his reasoning, just from my own work as a heritage professional. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I met with the property owner and the consultant. So the consultant does specialize in slate roof repairs. They were giving the homeowner a quote on what it would be to repair just this section versus repairing the whole house. And the conclusion was kind of made that the cost to repair this section would be quite large. The cost to repair the whole roof would be pretty extreme. He was recommending put this in as a temporary measure, use the material. And you can see up on the slide, it's really only the left-hand section there, and it's experiencing more failure than other parts of the roof because I believe ice has been landing on that section and the slate just isn't holding up anymore. But the consultant's idea was you'll have enough slate to salvage from there to integrate up in the missing areas of the upper roof, and then we can just get this roof lasting about 10 more years. He said that's about the life expectancy left in it before the homeowner is going to have to look at re-roofing the whole building. Which he did provide a quote for that as well, but this is the kind of cost-effective, keeping the most viable material with the building route that we came up with. Thank you.
Thank you for providing that context. So, yeah, it's interesting to learn a little bit more, so thank you. And then also with the stairs as well, so rebuilding the, oh my gosh, I'm losing my words right now. Rebuilding the railing to look like the older railing that's already there. But then I was just also curious about how would they change the stairs? How would you make those look different?
Thank you, through you, Chair. So the property owner will just have the existing railing repaired, but the staircase that's there right now, the rise and run of the riser and tread is incorrect, and it causes a bit of a tripping hazard because they were just kind of a prefab stair, so they want to have a carpenter remake them to the proper rise and run. I believe there's an extra riser in this staircase right now, so it'll reduce that tripping hazard, and they just want to match the look of the original porch with the kind of routed profiles on the treads and return it to the look that it had. The homeowner had these installed, I think, 2 years ago, so they're pretty new to replace the original ones that were rotten, so they kind of just want to put those original ones back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess I was just kind of hoping for a little bit more information of what was planned, but thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councilor DeFlavio.
I'm just going to add, I think that it's important that we're flexible, and, this is just showing that we can be flexible when it comes to things like this. As was noted, 10 years down the line is not that far. It might seem like far when you're making that repair, but I can tell you that 25 years have passed since my house was built, and I feel like I just finished it yesterday. So that 10 years is coming sooner than later. The person's just buying time, right? And maybe when you know that this type of investment's coming, you could save up for it over a period of time, and hopefully that's what's going to happen with this bit of flexibility that we're giving here.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. And that's why I think it's kind of really cool that we're able to salvage the shingles that we can to then use on the roof of the main house and kind of extend its life a little bit longer. I just had some questions to clarify just from my own curiosity. But at that, we will move forward with our resolution. All right, so resolved that report HR 2509 92 Main Street West Heritage Permit application be received, and that the committee recommends that the heritage permit for 92 Main Street West be recommended for approval and subject to the following conditions: that the failing section of the porch roof be replaced with an asphalt shingle in a similar color to the historic slate, and that the slate removed from the porch be salvaged for repairs to the main roof system. A mover. Councillor Cristangi. And a seconder, Councillor DeFlavio. All in favor? All right, that's carried. Thank you. And we'll move on to our second heritage permit report of the night. This is for 99 Main Street West. Bianca, go ahead for this one.
Thank you, through you, the chair. So again, 99 Main Street West was a recipient of the grant funding, and they are starting their work. So the work proposed for this property is, so you can see on the screen, there's some pressure treated columns that were installed as temporary on the building. And then there was some later kind of half columns that were added closer to the masonry. They're all four are not original to the house, and they want to put something in that was more in keeping with the original posts that was done by the Schaefer brothers. But a consecutive kind of issue or a constant issue we see happening with the columns is because they're directly on the concrete. They're not drying out, so they're failing at the base and rotting. So we are recommending that when they install the new ones that they use aluminum caps to ensure that the building can dry out and that issue doesn't happen. A heritage permit was required for this because the profile of the columns are changing, and then also the back columns are affixing into the actual masonry of the building. So because of that, we are able to ask for a heritage permit through the Heritage Act. And so the replacement columns are on the screen there, and that's what they're proposing to put in place. And then the other thing I was going to add is for all of the grant applications, they had to put a very detailed step-by-step process on how they're doing all these things. So you might have noticed that these don't have as much data, and it's because we already have the full plans. It's more these approvals are required. So they are all in keeping with best practices. They needed to be to meet the criteria. And so we'll be working directly with the property owners to make sure that all of that's taking place. So that's this one as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions for 99 Main Street West? All right. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it's really awesome to see these things happening, right? Like these are direct results of the grant happening, right? And then we have these two homeowners that are able to do these work to maintain and preserve and enhance their heritage buildings. So I just think it's really cool to see it at work. And I just wanted to say, again, well done, and that it's happening. And I think it's working the way that we were hoping, right? Where now they're in consultation with staff and heritage professionals to get, the right advice and the right consultation to make the right choices. So to me, it's just really exciting to see this happen. If there's no other questions, I'll move over to the resolution. Resolved that report HR 2510 99 Main Street West heritage permit application be received, and that the committee recommends to the heritage permit for 99 Main Street West be recommended for approval. A mover. We have Amy and a seconder. We have Councillor Cristangi. And all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Great work. All right, and we have one last report for the evening. This is for a municipal register demolition request for modern additions at 341 Main Street West. And Garrett will go ahead with this presentation, so start when you're ready.
Thank Thank you through you, Chair. The property at 341 Main Street West has been listed on the Municipal Heritage Register since 2021. The property was listed on the register due to the age and style of the building and its placement along a historically significant corridor. On May 23rd, 2025, the property owners submitted a complete register demolition request for the modern additions on the property and the second floor, stating that they intended to demolish the front porch, the false dormer above the porch, the rear sunroom, the rear deck, a two-car garage, and the second floor of the home. In order to ensure that council can provide a decision to the property owners within 60 days, as prescribed within the Ontario Heritage Act, staff prioritized the review of the property. On May 28th, 2025, staff notified the property owner that the second floor of the home dates to 1875 and that further review of the property would be required due to preliminary significant findings. The property owner withdrew their intent to demolish the second floor of the home to enable further review and to ensure the retention of the 1875 features of the property. The property owner did, however, want to continue with the request to demolish the modern additions on the property. The slideshow highlights the red areas proposed for demolition, and the green areas are the portions of the home not being demolished. During the analysis of the property, it was found that the subject dwelling was constructed in 1875 by Cornelius Cooper Homan. Homan became associated with Grimsby Park, becoming the mail carrier between Grimsby and the Grimsby campground, and eventually the caretaker and superintendent of the Methodist campground. Prior to coming to Grimsby, Homan was a wagon maker living in the core of the developing city of Hamilton. Eventually, Homan found employment as a carriage maker at the Grimsby Stone Shop, owned by blacksmith Lawrence Van Burskirk. The property owners of 341 Main Street West are seeking approval to demolish the modern additions. I won't list them all again, but this will be a part of a larger application to propose some new construction on the site. They want to construct a new garage, a larger addition to the rear of the property, which follows best practice, and they want to recreate a dormer on the front of the home that's actually functioning, just to take a better advantage of like the lower ceiling heights in the second floor. The property owner confirmed that all demolition will be done carefully to avoid damage to the original portions of the building. The property owner also confirmed that their proposed works will be in keeping with the character of the dwelling and with the character of Main Street. In summary, following the assessment of the property, staff have concluded that the requested demolition does not impact the identified architectural, associative, and contextual value of the historic portions of the home. Staff recommend that the property at 341 Main Street West remain included on the Municipal Heritage Register, and that the demolition of the porch, the deck, garage, dormer, and the sunroom addition be permitted, subject to the following recommendation. That the porch, deck, dormer, addition, and garage on 341 Main Street West be photo documented and copies be provided to the Grimsby Historical Society for their archives. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. We have a couple hands already, so yes, Councilor DeFlavio, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. So the rear portion, I understand, the front porch is a pretty prominent feature. I know that it's not original and it's an addition, but it's a pretty prominent feature on the house. So I'm just wondering what, and you mentioned it's part of a project of reconstruction and addition, but what that porch is going to look like, I think, I'm assuming they're going to consult with staff and make sure that it would be something in keeping with the traditional, what you would traditionally find on this house, because I've only ever known it like this. It's like been that all my life, so I don't know what it would look like, but I'm curious what it would have looked like if it wasn't this. What it would have been before this, if it was just a big stairway to the front door, if it was, so if you have any kind of information about what that front porch is going to look like after they tear it down, because it's going to significantly change the front of the house, obviously, taking that porch down. Is it just because it's decaying and they want to reconstruct it with new materials in a similar fashion? You mentioned the dormer, improving the dormer to take advantage of the low, or to make better use of the low ceilings on the second floor. But I think of that as separate from the porch itself, because the porch is kind of a prominent feature on the front of the house. So if you can give any information on that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So I met with the property owner. They're still in the planning phase of what they want to do. They really wanted to see, what portions of the home could be demolished, which portions had heritage value. When I inspected the porch, we do have a photo of the home from the 1990s before there wasn't any porch on it, and the staircase did lead right up to the front door at that time. And the materials on the porch now are mostly pressure-treated materials, but they're starting to show signs of rot and failure, so that's why the property owners want to replace it. But due to the property being listed on the register, we can't really speak to the changes and kind of the final look of the home, but the property owners do want to work with staff and make sure that they maintain the curb appeal of the home. They really enjoy it, and the curb appeal of Main Street, so they are being cognizant of that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do wonder if you've been able to have, a positive dialogue with the homeowners, and you've been able to come up to this agreement, because originally they were planning to do something completely different. And then once they learned about the heritage of the house and the value, they changed their plan. So I do wonder if, in the future, if there's an opportunity to kind of celebrate and honor with a designation, then maybe as you continue to work with them, knowing that a designation might be an option for them, and if they're agreeable, and maybe planning whatever they change their porch to, having that in mind. But I understand the current register, how it exists, we don't really have any teeth at the moment, but I'm really glad to see that there has been a lot of positive dialogue, and to continue that forward and to celebrate that, knowing that we also have tax incentives and a grant program that could also help with whatever comes in the future. So if they do wish to be designated. So just something I was thinking about, that this does seem like a bit of a good news story in that the positive relationship you've been able to form. Any other questions or comments? Oh yes, Garrett, sorry.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Through our consultation with the property owners, they were really excited by the history of the home, and I did speak to them about designation, and it's something that they are interested in once the project's complete. Thank you.
It's good to know. Thank you. Any comments, questions further? I think all my questions were answered. So thank you very much. Okay, I think we'll move on then with the resolution. Oh, it's hiding. It's here. Thank you. Okay. Oh, it's a little bit longer. All right. Resolved that report HR 2511 demolition request for modern additions 341 Main Street West be received, and that the demolition request for the modern additions at 341 Main Street West be recommended for approval, and that the modern additions on 341 Main Street West be photo documented and copies be provided to the Grimsby Historical Society for their archives, and the property remains listed on the Municipal Heritage Register to allow for further review in the future. A mover. We have Brian. And a seconder. We have DeFlavio. All in favor? All right, that's carried. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, moving on to, I do have a couple announcements that I'd like to share. The first is that the Grimsby Museum, they have opened up a new permanent gallery, and it's really, really exciting for them. It's the first permanent gallery, and they were able to get federal funding for the gallery, and they've done fantastic work. So I would definitely recommend going and visiting. They've done it, it's not a linear narrative so much as it is little moments of Grimsby's history throughout from Indigenous beginnings all the way through to the 20th century, 21st century. They even have Lexus on Fires in there, so it's kind of cool. And so I just wanted to give that shout out because they really did awesome work, and I'm just excited that they're able to share the Grimsby story in a new, updated way. The other thing I wanted to mention, just again out of interest, as history inclined people, is just something a little bit more personal, I guess. But I was checking the mail a couple weeks ago, And I got this postcard that I actually thought was junk mail, and it ended up being a program that's facilitated by the Juno Beach Center in France. It's called the He Lived Where You Lived campaign, and the organization sent out 1,945 postcards to residents across Canada of homes that are still standing where a fallen soldier from the Second World War had lived. So someone who, his name was, I don't have his name right now, but he was only 21 years old when he died overseas, but he lived in my house. And it was really, really powerful to receive that. And it got me on this whole journey of learning more about the people that that live in the place where I do. And, but just, a great example of public history at work. And it's such a simple campaign. A postcard that was mailed to me and that opened up all of this discovery and curiosity and really made me appreciate where I live a lot more. And so I just wanted to share that as just something really unique. So if you wanted to learn a little bit more about it, it's called the He Lived Where You Lived campaign. If you head to the Juno Beach website, the Juno Beach Center website, they have this map that shows where all of the addresses, the postcards were sent. So all across Canada, and if you zoom in on Grimsby, there's one little address for, so it was just really neat. And, serendipity, I guess, that it came to someone who's really into local history. So that was exciting. So I just thought I would share that story for anyone who's interested. But if there's nothing else, then we can conclude the meeting. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you back next month.
Thank you.